now another dramatic arrest, this time of Peter Mandelson, related to Jeffrey Epstein. Again, two very senior figures in British society who have been arrested and questioned by police.
Yes, it's just another unedifying look. And obviously, in my job as a royal commentator, you know, it all brings into question the Mandelson and Andrew relationship. When he was trade envoy, by all accounts, Mandelson encouraged Andrew to be promoted to that job. So it's a mess. And this is the problem for the monarchy. They are now embroiled in a major constitutional crisis, and they've got to somehow find a way of making sure the public don't lose faith in them, because every politician is coming out saying we've got to look at every institution, the cover-ups, the, you know, what's going on at the highest echelons of government. And, you know, Keir Starmer seems to be embroiled in all sorts of issues. And, you know, obviously Kemi Badenoch's come out and said what she said, but let's be honest, you know, they were been in government for 14 years. The whole thing is an unedifying mess, and Andrew and Mandelson are doing their best to basically make people feel even more disenfranchised from the political elite, because everything seems to be a bit of a quagmire.
Certainly is a quagmire, and a barrister I know has just got in touch to say they might just actually complete their searches, conduct a short interview and then release him under investigation tonight. Yep. They may also keep him in a private room and not put him in a cell. We don't know, but certainly the length of time that Andrew was kept and the complexity of this case would at least suggest, a speculation, but would suggest that Peter Mandelson won't be out tonight. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there. On Andrew himself, quiet over the last few days. We've heard very little from his brother, Charles. We had that extraordinary statement at the time, but Prince William at the BAFTAs last night saying he is not in a calm state. Front page of many of the papers today, including The Sun, Rupert.
Yes, but bearing in mind he's talked a lot about the mental issues that he's had to, you know, and he did an interview last week about mental health. I think it's quite hard, because actually when you look at it, he's actually probably going to have to take the sort of trying to make sure the royal family, the monarchy, seems relevant to a future generation. It was interesting that he did that interview with, you know, Radio 1 and trying to engage with a younger generation. And this is the problem for the royal family. They cannot be seen at any stage now to be in any way covering up what may go on with Andrew, because if they are, then they will lose the court of public opinion. And this is the real issue. And look, it is, I mean, last Thursday was a moment where you go, wow, it was a wow moment. And there's no two ways about it. But now the reality is striking home to the royal family. And yesterday we saw the Prince and Princess of Wales at the BAFTA awards, which is something they always go to. But you know, the sort of overarching sort of theme of it is, look, he's back out there after 3 days after his uncle was arrested well, not arrested, but brought in for police questioning. So the whole thing is a major issue for the royal family. This is not going away. And you're hearing politicians today, you know, wanting, you know, sort of sensing blood, as it were, not necessarily with the monarchy, but maybe with Keir Starmer or other people. It is a real mess, and the political elite have got a real issue here in this country, and that includes the monarchy. But you feel for Prince William, who is trying to sort of fight the good fight, he would say, yet at the same time events are conspiring seriously against him.
I've asked what I think is a reasonably tough question of a number of royal commentators over the last few days, but I haven't had the chance to put it to you, Rupert. Do we need to reevaluate, when we ask who knew what when, the reputation and the role of Queen Elizabeth II?
I think there are issues, because she clearly protected her son in some extent, because there's this $12 million payment and it was a mess. I think we can actually now turn around and say Why did that happen?
Yeah.
And I do think there are question marks. But Andrew has always been convinced of his status, and always had a sense that he was, and has always had a sense that he not necessarily above the law, but because he was a member of the
not the same as the little people.
No, correct. And look, and I've known him since I was 8. So I've seen him close up, and I know what he's like. And he's never doubted his belief that he was slightly better than all of us. He's also not necessarily the brightest tool in the box. So therefore, you put that together, and he is now doing what, by his actions, he's doing his level best to give the monarchy, the institution, the constitutional institution of the monarchy, which actually since 1066, if you put it into context, is 960 years as an institution, under more of a microscope than it probably has been since the times of when King Charles II, we had a Commonwealth, for Oliver Cromwell.
Yeah, I think
this is
yes, it's major.
The biggest. It's major because we are in a very difficult climate. People question everything, and the royal family must now be seen to be not actually doing everything right. And the king may have been back in the day loyal to his brother because he thought yes, but actually that loyalty might now come home to bite him. Now, I don't know, because if we end up in a court of law, how's that going to play out? Because the one thing the British public won't want is a sense that it's a establishment area covering up.
Yeah.
And the monarchy are equally have to look as if they are without fear or favour. And if Andrew goes before a court of law, nothing, the due process has to be done wherever it takes them. Now, that's going to be very uncomfortable for the monarchy, and I will not pretend otherwise. I am a monarchist. I believe in the institution, because what I will always say is I'm not convinced what
the alternatives. And it'll be very interesting to see. I mean, people are still very pro the monarchy in this country. About 2/3 of people very much pro monarchy, according to one recent poll.
A lot of stories circulating over here in the United States about the royals. I apologize for texting you at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I was excited.
You did text me. You were excited, but it wasn't about anyway. So over here, Andrew. I mean, front page of the Sun today, which is extraordinary. I mean, get off your high horse. This man has been banished not only to Sandringham, but has now been told that he can't go riding or anything. And politically, Kins, you'd know this, there's this whole thing about releasing the files. His house was searched for the 4th day yesterday. That's done. But our Prime Minister's refusing to release all the files, and people are getting angrier by the minute.
I mean, the problem for Keir Starmer is that refusing to release the full files on Andrew risks creating exactly the kind of suspicion the government says it wants to shut down. I mean, years of scandal and drip-fed revelations. The public, they're sick of it. They're not in the mood for partial answers or carefully worded summaries anymore. People want the full picture, because at this point, holding documents back, it doesn't calm the story. It keeps it alive. And the longer those papers stay locked away, the more people assume there must be something in them worth hiding.
I'm so with you. And in fact, I mean, a couple of weeks ago when this whole files thing was talked about, and he stood up and he said, oh, we're going to decide which ones. Even his own MPs went, we're beyond the pale. We'll talk about America in a minute, but what's happening here, Kins, undoubtedly, is the British people are going, we don't have much trust in almost any part of the establishment right now, whether it's the government or the royal family or our public institutions, and they will demand transparency, including the latest thing, of course, is the removal of Andrew from the line of succession. Have a listen to this. This is Keir Starmer yesterday on that subject.
Well, it's important that we let the police investigation run its course, but I can tell you the government is looking at options in relation to succession. I think it's important that we do that with all options on the table.
Doesn't make any sense to me, Kins. The guy's got no titles, he's got no life, he's not allowed to be seen. I just do it overnight. I don't understand. I mean, somebody said to me, he's still 8th in line to the throne. That's never going to happen. Get rid.
The second I read about the 26-year-old Russian girl and the DOJ dump. That's when I would have been like, we need to get this guy as, I understand that they need to investigate him properly. I understand that Keir Starmer has to say things like that. But the reality is it's guilt by association in the court of public opinion. This guy is a creep. And no one wants to even imagine the nightmare of him representing your country in any way, shape, or form going forward.
Did you see that? The whole trade envoy job. I might have said this to you yesterday. It's my age, but the whole trade envoy job that's resulted in people saying you've used it to help your friend Epstein and to basically furnish yourself. He was suggested by none other than Peter Mandelson. I mean, they're all up to it. Like this whole sort of crock of lying and whatever. I heard a story the other day. Maybe it was yesterday in the papers. Everybody's always talked about his arrogant attitude, Kins. Apparently, he would bellow at people when he was trying to get women into Buckingham Palace. There was a story overnight that one poor guy who was, close protection security. This woman just turned up in a very small dress, saying, "I'm here to see Andrew." Truthfully, and the guy, "Well, you've got no security," and he got on the phone, "You send her up to my room." I mean, it is extraordinary, and does still further beg the questions we've said for days now. How much was known? That's the problem over here, mate. They think they knew a lot more than they're letting on.
Well, Keir Starmer could relieve some of that frustration and stress by releasing these documents, but the fact that he's saying he's going to hold on to them just upsets people even more.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, with everything that's gone on, we haven't had a chance to speak about them for ages. An announcement yesterday. Go on, try and sell it to me, Kins. This is brilliant. No.
Oh, I don't know if I could even try to sell it to you, but Prince Harry and Meghan have announced a surprise humanitarian trip to Jordan, where they're going to spend 2 days meeting with aid groups and health workers focused on communities affected by war and displacement. The visit is being coordinated alongside the World Health Organization with the goal, critics would say, of drumming up whatever positive headlines the Sussexes still can. A source close to the Sussexes told People magazine, their favorite outlet here in the United States, the couple are pro-family and pro-children, and their philanthropic work reflects this value.
Pro-family? Pro-family?
Describing Harry and Meghan as pro-family, that feels strangely ironic when they've actively destroyed at least true. Pro-family in theory, in practice, results may vary.
Just honestly, the only thing I could think about Harry and Meghan, I loathe her, is they must be delighted that they're not front and centre. And you sort of, I don't know. I mean, there was another story overnight going back to it was royals again. Sarah Ferguson was apparently trying to break into Hollywood weeks before Andrew's arrested for trafficking girls and allegedly selling secrets. What was she going to appear as in? She was pitching her regal bodice ripper, her heart for a compass, as Bridgerton meets The Crown for a TV or film project. And sources say that she had the book rewritten, repitched, and was actively really leaning on industry contacts. And this is all as the DOJ documents start to dump. And she's devastated because she thinks she is this close to getting this show made. I mean, in Hollywood, you can rewrite the script. Unfortunately for the Yorks, you cannot rewrite the headlines. What would we call it? 50 Shades of Fergie, maybe 50 Shades of Earl Grey, because in this version, the tea keeps spilling whether anyone ordered it or not. This book, I mean, all she had to do was write about what Andrew got up to. This is the other thing that I keep wondering about. All these women that came to Buckingham Palace and came to Windsor. That was the ex-wife living down the corridor. She never heard, she never saw, she never questioned. She always publicly stuck up for him. Was she part of it? I mean, then I'll say things, I'll get into trouble. Maybe we're back to Kinsey, Kyle and Charlie. Maybe there were more than two. I've no idea.
Well, if those emails are anything like Ghislaine's, then perhaps, because Ghislaine talked about a couple of those scenarios in her
Go on, say
messages.
the word for me at 10 to 7 in the morning. It'll get me through the rest of the show. What words?
Threesome?
Brilliant. Not now. Bringing Ghislaine up. This is brilliant. I of course, a couple of years ago, interviewed her inside the penitentiary, which was an interview that was all she talked about was tofu, I remember. Anyway, apparently, according to a report overnight, a former inmate says she's a smelly old mare. Is that right?
That's right. The latest headlines about her stateside are not about super secret files or courtroom drama. It's about humble prison life. And according to her former inmate, it stinks. A woman that says she served time with Ghislaine at the federal prison in Tallahassee claims she had a reputation for showering only once or twice a week, even while exercising regularly. And she was pretty infamous for being smelly. And she apparently had very few friends because of said smell. They also said that no one liked her, but no one wanted to risk hurting her or going after her in jail because the repercussions would just not be worth the drama. But if Prince Andrew, ex-Prince Andrew, is watching us right now, the moral of the story is that you can go from Buckingham Palace to body odor faster than you can say Pizza Express. So hopefully he's listening. We're teaching him a lesson.
Prison Pong. Cam, what a great headline. Kins, it just continues to give. He's banned from horse riding. Fergie wanted to sell her sexy book to Hollywood before they were all in trouble. She's probably going to be arrested. And amongst all of it, in the midst of it all, Meghan Unsparkle and the dumb Prince Harry are off on a humanitarian visit to Jordan. Not that anybody gives a damn. It is the legend that is Andrew Loney. Andrew, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Very nice to be with you again.
I sort of every day I think, where else do we go? I wanted to throw out, I mean, overnight and certainly 2 weeks ago, these files that Parliament have, all about Andrew, all about the political link to the royal family and Mandelson and all the mess. We still have a Prime Minister, Andrew, who's saying, I'm not going to release them all, it could jeopardise the case. We had Mandelson moaning that he'd been arrested. It's an extraordinary mess. How many more people do you believe will be implicated in this?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who certainly should be questioned. I think other members of Andrew's family, his staff, his private secretary, but I think also the former heads of UKTI, the former ambassadors, all these people certainly knew what was going on and didn't report it. I mean, when I wrote to, I suppose, 3,000 people, 90% of them didn't even bother replying or said, I'm not interested. And I just hope that some of those people who weren't interested then will be forced to be interested by having to talk about it on oath to Parliament. I think that's the only stage next. I mean, I welcome the fact that some files may be released. I've been trying for 5 years to get them released, but I don't hold my breath that they will release anything particularly significant. I suspect the shredders are working overtime in Whitehall.
I probably agree with you, sadly. One of the things that you've not shied away from is what I think is absolutely spot on, which is that whatever happens in all of this, there's going to be a need for much greater transparency with the British monarchy going forward. Can you see a situation, because last week, the week before, was something we never thought we'd see happening. Can you see a situation where the King himself or the King-in-waiting Prince William would be questioned by the police?
Yes, I think they're material witnesses. I think the big question we're all asking is, what did the royal family know? When did they know it? And what did they do? Have they actually been perverting the course of justice by covering up Andrew's crimes? I mean, the fact is that Andrew's misdemeanors were reported in the press the last 15 years. I wrote a book entitled, which had plenty more, and nothing was done. No one seemed to show any interest in holding him to account. I mean, finally, we're getting to this point. But I hope that, you know, now the police will operate without fear and favour, and the palace will truly cooperate, which I don't think has been the case up till now.
Do you think it goes to the very top in the palace? Genuinely, we've talked before about the money and the Queen, and I think God rest her soul. I mean, the legacy, I hope. I mean, maybe some would say it's tarnished. I remember saying, as I think many people would share the belief that, you know, she was the one constant in our side. But there's no doubt the finger would be pointed, if she was still alive, at how she indulged, and I mean that word genuinely, indulged this appalling human being to end up behaving as he did.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting parallel with Mrs. Thatcher, who also had a blind spot towards a wayward son. And I don't think it's really affected her reputation. I mean, she was helping him do all sorts of dodgy deals. But I think we just have to be honest about what's happened. And I do think this goes right to the top. I mean, the BBC have been posing questions about the King's role, which they've refused to answer. That's worrying. I find it very surprising if the King didn't know what was going on. And the question is, what did he do about it? Did he turn a blind eye? Did he actually protect and enable Andrew? I mean, he needs to give us some answers, I think. And
it's quite interesting because I read that in 2003, before Andrew became that trade envoy, of course, brought in by, weirdly, Mandelson, that the king, either flippantly or by email, I don't know, Andrew, said that this shouldn't happen, this will end in tears. Well, if he was in any way not aware, that statement would go completely against that, wouldn't it?
Yes, I think the family have been aware of Andrew's activities for a long time. I mean, they couldn't have not be because it's widely reported. But yes, I mean, 2001, King Charles did say to I think his mother and others that this would end in tears, that Andrew would play golf, chase women, and make money on the side, which is exactly what happened. I mean, I think we do need to get a stronger sense of how the appointment was made, given there were so many warnings. Shades again of Mandelson.
When we talk about Andrew now, this figure in Sandringham, front of the page today, not allowed to ride a horse, I think that's what did their head in, wasn't it? The sight of him driving around. Well, I used to live on the Long Walk, riding around the Long Walk parks with a smile on his face, when not a moment sort of, apology to those poor victims, this sort of entitled, arrogant prig. You sort of look at it and you think to yourself, I feel like the man's never going to grasp how much this is affecting the British people. And we spoke earlier last week about, maybe the king should abdicate. Is there not a question to be set, which is, do you think that this could result in the end of the British monarchy?
Well, I think it's at a crossroads, and I think if it wants to save itself, it has to be more transparent. It has to, cooperate with law enforcement. I think we do need far more transparency. Everything is very, very secretive. And I think in a 21st century democracy with social media, that position is now untenable. I mean, they've lost the narrative. I think what's so extraordinary is they're still pursuing their old policy of sitting there hoping the problem will go away. And as you say, it's not going to. I think people feel very angry. There he was looking at investment opportunities in Helmand Province off the back of soldiers' deaths. I mean, it's really shocking stuff.
Do you think there will be calls to abolish the monarchy?
Well, I mean, there have been calls. I hope they don't succeed. I'm a monarchist, but I do think that there's corruption at the heart of the monarchy, and that needs to be cleaned out.
Yesterday, there were some pictures of... you've been very honest about Fergie and also the two princesses, Eugenie and the other one, who's Beatrice, is it? She was caught, I think, Notting Hill incognito, joining her husband for coffee. Some would say they feel sorry for those girls. You've said that they might well be a part of this whole sorry saga.
Yes, it's very much a family business. I mean, I've kept off some of that stuff, but I think if the king feels necessary to bring them close and protect them, then, these stories about their involvement in their parents' business activities will emerge.
Are you saying that they benefited from some of the business deals that their parents got through Epstein and those contacts? You're saying that the girls are implicated in this? Absolutely.
Money was put through their accounts, gifts were given to them as a way of compensating their parents.
Unbelievable. Sarah Ferguson, you and I both share the belief that she needs to be questioned. We talk about having a sort of level understanding. This woman was desperately trying to break into Hollywood, Kinsey was telling us this morning, literally days and weeks before ex-husband Andrew's Epstein arrest. This woman is so deluded that she thought that she still has some sort of story to tell. Do you think she'll ever wise up?
No. I mean, she is a great, what I describe as the Houdini of the royal family. She'll bounce back and escape somehow. And because she's completely shameless, and there will be naive people who will pay to buy books by her and watch interviews, she knows that she can always monetize her position. That's all she has.
The one thing I wanted to ask you about Andrew, we've seen accusations about young girls, Epstein's houses, flights, the Lolita Express, and logs being thrown out. Sex trafficking is a crime. I read a story yesterday about how he would abuse protection officers for not letting young girls in short skirts with no security clearance up to his chambers. How sordid does it get? I mean, you don't have to say, but how sordid does this tale get?
Oh, I think it's got a long way to go. I mean, there's a lot of material I couldn't put in the book for legal reasons to do with underage girls. The way I think it's going, I think it should go, is this is a national security scandal. The fact is the royal family were penetrated by Russian and Chinese intelligence because there was no oversight and they were greedy. And I think that needs to be addressed. I mean, this isn't just a story of sexual and financial misdemeanors. It's one about the safety of this country.
But there's my point. He was arrested, or rather questioned and arrested over, quite rightly, his role as a trade envoy and state secrets. Why do you think he hasn't been arrested for the sex abuse claims so far?
I think sex trafficking is much more difficult to establish. You need to find the victims. You need to get them to agree to give testimony. And the problem is a lot of these women are unknown. I mean, they were just a name, a girl on a flight log. A lot of these logs have been destroyed. I think that's one of the other problems. Either amnesia or a lot of destruction of documents. So it's really hard to mount the case or to investigate. But I hope that, women will come forward and will be prepared to testify, because clearly these are serious charges and he does need to be held to account for them.
And I think that's the point, isn't it? When these things gather force, Andrew, when people read, hear and see on a daily basis, it might give those women the strength to believe that they can be heard and they can be believed. Because the one thing for me in all of this is Andrew has never apologised, which I find completely repugnant. I think that, is the thing. Just to finish, if you, because you've been right all along, if you were advising the royal family right now, what would Andrew Loney tell them to do?
Well, to come clean, be honest. We need to clean out the stables. Let's have a reset. And if Charles is complicit in this cover-up, which I believe he is, then I think he has to fall on his sword. This will define his reign. But I think it could be defined in a positive way, that the royal family have kind of woken up and sniffed the coffee.
The Andrew saga drags on. He apparently stuck in Sandringham, banned, according to the front of the Sun newspaper today, like you really give a toss. But anyway, banned from riding a horse, doesn't want to be seen in public. They don't want him out and about. What becomes of him? Much of what's been said over the last few days is who's up to it, who's up to their necks in it. It could go, as Andrew Loney said, as high as the King and William, certainly people who worked in the palace, and a lot of focus has been on the royal protection side of this. We'll say a very good morning to the former head of royal protection, a man I know very well, Di Davis. Good morning.
Good morning. Lovely to be back with you, sir.
I love the red wall. It's class in a glass, Davis. You know that, don't you? Absolutely.
Well, my wife did that. I was in Australia, and when I came back, she painted it. So what can I say?
Well, I think well done. I mean, obviously bought her a bunch of flowers and taken a job away from you. The old man used to call my mother the War Office. And he'd go, I'm going off on a trip, and when I come back, the War Office will change the house. Di, is it unfair?
Marvellous.
Is it unfair, the spotlights being pointed at former royal protection officers? Do you think it's fair or unfair, my friend?
No, sadly, I think it's reasonable, and that's the best word in the English language. If they went around the world with him for all those years, stayed in those 5 or 6 different premises from Paris to the Virgin Islands and so on, they must have seen something. So they are crucial. If you're going to have a proper police inquiry, and I've been calling for that for a number of years on your programme and others, into the sexual allegations. But let's deal with the other bit. No, I think it's absolutely right. They were with him, close as anyone. But, the big question that has to be asked, which I can't understand, why nobody didn't do due diligence before they went, particularly on that 9-day stay. Didn't the embassy warn anybody, or the High Commission?
Listen, I've got
Police,
so
the
much.
FBI?
I would love to be able to sit with my old man and have this discussion, because he would have so much to tell me about this. I mean, we all know that if you work for the royal family, he did it, I'm sure. Do protection officers have to sign the Official Secrets Act, or is it just a discretion? What is it?
No, I think they do, and they did. And particularly, I think, when we all joined, and I joined back in the late 60s, so I'm not quite sure if I signed it then, but clearly you are seeing a huge and are aware and listening. And that's the problem with Andrew. He would have been briefed at the highest level about arms sales, about all manner of things. Yeah. And they arguably, in the front of the car, or wherever they are, they would have been party to a great deal of this. Not saying they would be there when he was talking to Mandelson and all the rest, but you don't know.
No.
So it's eminently fair, at long last, that the Met actually investigate not only the police, but high officials in the palace. And if any royals knew of this, then unfortunately they have to be questioned too.
Well, Andrew
Loney
said this morning he believes that this goes as high as the king, and that what will happen in this country is that the demand for transparency, be it through protection officers, be it through household staff, be it from the royals themselves, will only increase, Di. It's not going to go away, is it? And people will talk about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and how his character was this, that and the other. But the fact of the matter is, I don't believe I'm going over the top when I say this. For the monarchy, something I fervently believe in, to survive, this needs to be stripped bare. Back to protection officers. Do they, I mean, I got some sort of idea from the government, do they ever leave his side? I mean, would they have Would they have gone to Epstein's New York mansion with him and stayed there, or left him there and gone to a hotel? What happened?
No, I think the records show that at least two of them stayed there. And I say again, they would have done a reconnaissance. They would have gone there. They should have checked out who Mandelson was. This is the one I can't understand, but it goes further. They would have gone to all these different residents. And I'm told, I haven't been there myself, you couldn't possibly not see the lewd pictures on the walls. Everywhere there were sexual objects in virtually every room, it is alleged. And I have to say, this is all alleged.
And this is on Epstein's Island, isn't it?
It's on Epstein's Islands, it's in Florida, it's in New Mexico. Any premises where he went, they would have gone and should have gone to the local police or the local FBI agents and liaised. So what we have to ask is, when that infamous visit, which is photographed in New York, didn't anybody from the embassy to the police to anybody else do due diligence? And was he warned, you are staying with a paedophile? That's what I can't understand. And whether they stood on the doors as semi-bouncers is, frankly, minutiae in the far worse scenario that we're talking about. So royalty protection, sadly, and I was very proud of the vast majority of my officers, some 400 plus in my time, they all did a good job. But clearly there are questions to ask. And as an investigator of half a century now, I would be asking them. I wouldn't send them letters. I would say, I want a word with you at the Nick, please.
It's really difficult, though, isn't it? I'm going to stick up for them for a minute. If the whole premise is to protect, never question, be discreet, sign the Official Secrets Act, all well and good for me and other people right now, and you quite rightly to go, come on, for the monarchy to survive, we need transparency. You are going to have to bleat. It will go against almost everything they've ever been told to believe in, or the rules by which they've told. But for, as you said, for every correct I mean, you just said it. There were cameras in every room in the New York mansion. Any good close protection officer would have gone, well, we can see that. What's all this about? So presumably, did they stay in a room upstairs? Well, there were girls being ferried from famous person to famous person. It's an astonishingly... What concerns me, Di, if you want me to be completely honest, is a bit like with Mandelson and the Labour Party, one can only surmise this must go so damn high. It's a bit like the rape gang inquiry that I keep going on and people get angry. That's an institutional cover-up. There has to be, whether it's the royal family or the Mandelson or the rape, there has to be more to this. But I just feel we're at a point now where the British public won't accept being just fobbed off. I think they'll demand far more than they've ever demanded, my friend.
Well, you're right. At the weekend, I used the word a conspiracy of silence. Now I'm alleging a conspiracy of perverting the course of justice, because it's alleged, if you believe what Andrew Lowney tells us, and you, and I'm a friend of his, and I've worked with him for years on a variety of different things.
But he hasn't been wrong in anything he said. He was ridiculed.
Well, you're right.
At.
And he obviously, because he wrote the book and is far more authoritative than I'll ever be. But the point is, we've known about this since 2011. Let's go back to the sex trafficking. They had a crisis meeting, allegedly, led by a deputy press officer called Perkins, and they knew perfectly well back in 2011 that picture. Yes, he may have denied it to the Queen, but they certainly knew in the palace, and they monitor everything that goes on. And so for 14, 15 years, there has been a conspiracy of silence, and there's been a conspiracy by many at various levels not to tell the truth, I allege.
It's absolutely. I mean, it sounds a terrible thing to say. It's fascinatingly worrying. Do you think? And just to ask you, as I asked Andrew Loney this morning, if this goes as high as you and I would imagine, do you think that the King and William might end up being questioned by the police?
Well, I think they have to be, don't they? If they were party to any kind of issue, which Andrew has stated, and I'm thinking as an investigator, I say, and I've said it on numerous programs, don't take us for fools. Don't take the Michael that we will buy some of this nonsense that's been emanating for years, and the cover-up. Who decided? Didn't they have a meeting, crisis meeting, to pay the 12 million? Didn't anybody talk about it? Didn't they say, oh, we're going to strip him? But you don't strip a man who, frankly, okay, he has an association, but it had to go much deeper than that. You wouldn't take every title, everything the man has had all his life, unless you were pretty convinced he was guilty.
Yeah.
It just beggars belief, the nonsense that comes out of so-called experts. And I get really angry when they keep saying he denies all knowledge. Well, of course he'd deny all knowledge. But if you actually look at his track record, if you look at the evidence coming out, it's quite clear that this man had a thing about sex, in addition to feathering his and his ex-wife. And we haven't talked much about her, but she needs to be interviewed and frankly arrested as well.
That I completely agree with. Final question. It's brilliant to have you on, Di. I asked this of Andrew, asked it of Kinsey. Does the British monarchy survive this, or does the increased numbers of people calling for its abolishment grow?
I think, provided they're open and transparent, and we...
Oh, Andrew, Di, we've lost you. The sound just went completely bark. Come back, speak again. Is it all right? Yeah, we're right. Going to ask you the question again. Sorry, Di, there was a technical problem there. Does the monarchy survive this scandal, or will the calls for it to be abolished increase?
Well, I hope it survives, because if it's done properly, if it's transparent, and they show value for money, but we have to have that. And that's the crux to me. Be honest, tell the truth, and be susceptible, but also we have to justify, and you have to prove that you are worth the money, the huge amounts that we pay. And there's a lot of nonsense. This costs 60 pence. Royalty protection costs millions and millions. And Andrew has asked numerous times, how much do we actually spend? Well, I'm not going to tell you here today, but I know what my estimates are. Let me give you an estimate about Andrew and his family, about 200 million in today's money.
What do you make of these? This is their third weird pretend royal tour. They went to Nigeria, they went to Colombia, and now they've gone to Jordan, to the Middle East. What is this all about?
Well, I think they'd know they'd been in papers and people would say, oh my goodness, they've come, aren't they good, aren't they kind? But I don't think they're either good or kind. I think they want attention. I wonder who's going to pay for it. We don't know. And they're not in it at all. They can't help anybody there. They can just, they're just going round and listening, pretending it's so difficult. Give them a hug. Meghan likes to give someone a hug, and leave it at that. This is just a show off. And perhaps even, I think, that it would be a different way of having a royal family, that they can do much better than William and Catherine. Everybody smiles at them and they can be a lovely couple, and that would work much better. I think they're presenting themselves that they are much better than the other couple.
And there's no doubt, we've seen this over the years, that everything that William and Kate, the Prince and Princess of Wales, do seems to be very triggering to Meghan and Harry. So they always have to respond. Who can forget? Who can forget when Catherine bravely, for the first time since beginning her brave battle against cancer. Do you remember? It was a couple of years ago. She made her re-emergence very bravely at the Trooping the Colour ceremony. Do you remember?
Yes.
And so everybody's going, oh, she's all over the front page. And that's that very day, as soon as that was announced, Meghan announced that she was unleashing on the unsuspecting world a new range of dog biscuits. You can trace this. There is a pattern of behaviour. Every time William and Kate do something, Meghan and Harry are certain to respond. This is a response to William's recent trip to Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. But it's also against Catherine because she was brought up in Jordan for quite a long time.
Is that right? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yes, her parents brought her up there, and she knows it very well. So here you've got two things in one go. You could go there and go to the places and say, look, we've done much better than them. It's a terrible desperation that is, isn't it? That you've got to do better than them, and you've got to make sure that everybody knows you and sees you. I think it's absolutely appalling myself. They say that Buckingham Palace knew, but that's not saying that Charles said, yes, thank you very much, or William said, thank you very much. It's just putting it down. This time, they just plonk it down, don't care whether they like it or not, and off they went. That's why it was only in the newspapers just today when they left.
And did you notice that it was a couple of days ago that People magazine, which is the favoured outlet for Harry and Meghan, whenever they want to get a story out or some kind of message out, they always use People magazine, an insider, a source close to said. So when you see something in People magazine, it comes from Harry and Meghan. And a couple of days ago, Harry let it be known that he was furious that people were comparing him to his wicked uncle Andrew, insofar as they're both royal pariahs. Now, no one is accusing Harry of alleged crimes on the scale of Andrew, but this does remind us that King Charles and the royal family's problems are not just about Andrew. We are reminded on this stupid pretend royal tour, achieving the square root of sod all, God knows what it's about, these headline hunting, this weird headline hunting duo. We're reminded that the royal family still have an ongoing problem with Harry.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a little bit when she was watching Harry, who was kicking a ball around, right? And she obviously didn't like it because she took the ball away and started trying to kick it herself.
Well, this is not on this silly tour.
I was in fits because you can't let him get away with it, can she?
Oh,
and actually, she doesn't know how to play football, so her leg was all sort of awkward, but nonetheless she did it, so she get people to look at her. But she did look very, very scared and worried about the people who were very ill. You could see on her face, she does do a lot that's actually, you can read on her face. She looked really scared. She didn't want to touch them. And she was sort of horrified by it because she's so sensitive that she wouldn't want to catch anything. Well, they wouldn't have put her anywhere with someone who was, got something that would give her a catching problem. But it's just ridiculous. What can they do? They're not going to give them masses of money. I bet you most of those invalids didn't know a thing about who they were or what they were.
It's just ridiculous. And let's remember, Angela, that this couple, the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, I hope they like those titles while they've still got them, but let's remember that they're under investigation in terms of their charity, which used to be called the Archewell Foundation and now suddenly, weirdly, is called Archewell Philanthropies. They're under investigation for who paid for their trips, their first-class airfares and their trips to Colombia and Nigeria, because if it was the charity, then donors, people who donated to that charity, will say, well, hang on a second, we didn't give you money so you can fly first class to Nigeria and Colombia and stay in nice hotels, and now Jordan. We gave you money for the good causes you said you were going to fund. So if they're taking this charity money and spending it on their airfares for these weird pretend royal tours, that isn't right.
No, quite right. But they're also doing this for the Invictus Games, and they ask for an enormous amount of money. Meghan does for clothes. They want the best hotels. They expect the people who are an important, not necessarily people who give money because they're generous, anybody who's well known, they ask for the money. And that they, you know, if it's flying, they want the good plane. They are incredibly greedy about the money. Well, especially Meghan. She's asked for something like over £4,000 for a little sort of party before the Invictus Games start. That's what she wants, and so she's going there. She will ask for money. A few people will be delighted they're there because they wouldn't know if there was anything wrong going to happen. And they're going away tomorrow, back tomorrow, and they haven't really done anything, but they have got lots of photographers there.
Yeah.
So here they are.
It's just a ridiculous spectacle. And 2 weeks after William was there, genuinely staging a proper royal tour and doing good work, there's this ludicrous couple just pretending to do a royal tour that, you know, God knows what it's all about except for chasing headlines and saying, hey, anything William can do, we can do better. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic.
But it just goes in one ear and out the other ear with her because she's going to win. She's determined.
She's going to win, yeah. Well, good luck with that when it comes to, as ever, her weird online store, which I don't believe is selling a damn thing. Not surprising at $64 per candle.
A dramatic few days, of course, for the royal family and indeed for the country. And now Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been told he cannot ride horses.
I know. It's a hard knock life, I guess. With the amount of teddy bears we know that the man collects, surely he's got a rocking horse somewhere within that situation.
Why is he not allowed to ride horses?
Well, it's not a good look. Basically, it's the optics. It's one of the reasons why overnight, remember the story was he wasn't supposed to move to Sandringham until Easter. And the King and Prince William were so frustrated seeing those images of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, former Prince Andrew, doing the princely wave around the Windsor estate at tourists, smiling and posing for the camera. And they were so frustrated by the optics of this that they basically scooped him up overnight, threw him on a plane and said, you've got to get out of here. And it's my understanding that that is why the police rushed to search both homes, because they realized suddenly he was going to be in the midst of a moving process. You know, a lot can get lost in a moving process.
Well,
where you're tossing it in the trash or if you're tossing it in a fireplace. So he's been told that he needs to keep a low profile, keep his head down, and not be seen enjoying his retirement.
Yeah, it's interesting within that, because of course all of this matters. They want him to look as ideally out of the public eye completely, especially with everything that's going on at the moment. But he is defiant, of course. He is someone who, despite the photo that's on the screen at the moment of him in the back of the car, that iconic image, he has been pretty defiant in a lot of this.
And I think that that's one of the reasons you're seeing a lack of sympathy and compassion from most commentators. I mean, there are some people like Lady Victoria Harvey who say we need to be more considerate of his mental health. But this has not been a man that has shown any empathy, compassion, or self-awareness throughout the last few years as we've, experienced this story with him.
You're absolutely right. Tell us about Meghan Markle and Harry, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Sussex and Harry being on a tour of Jordan.
Peter, Jordan, where criticizing the royal family is not just frowned upon, it can actually land you behind bars.
Well, it's a good job you don't live there, Kinsey.
It can. Well, I'm saying Harry and Meghan going to a place where if you criticize the royal family, you can end up behind bars. I mean, it's kind of silly. The law makes it a criminal offense if you insult the monarch, the king, queen, the crown prince, and the penalty can be as long as 3 years in prison. And they will enforce these rules, often leaning on just like cyber crime laws. And people have been detained over social media posts. So it's interesting to see them there. But they announced this surprise visit about 24 hours ago to Jordan. They are there representing the World Health Organization. That's who invited them. And a source told People magazine that the couple are pro-family and pro-children, and their philanthropic work reflects this value, which I know you might see some irony in that statement too, considering the fact that neither one of them talked to their families. But I think that you're going to see a lot of negative feedback surrounding this trip because it puts the king's authority in jeopardy. I look at this and I see Harry forcing the half in, half out arrangement that Queen Elizabeth said absolutely not to. This, I think that the Sussexes, they derive that global relevance from this very institution that they now operate outside of. And if they continue to behave like freelance royals, conducting fake diplomatic appearances while no longer representing anything but themselves, I think this jeopardizes the king's reign. It raises serious constitutional and reputational questions about what the palace can do control-wise of these people. And Andrew's downfall was fundamentally about damaging associations and reputational risk. The lesson from that crisis should have been zero tolerance for any activity that blurs official status, diplomatic sensitivity, or personal branding with royal identity. Instead, we're watching a similar pattern unfold.
But what can actually be done in that case with Meghan and Harry? How could these kind of visits be stopped, for example?
I think that in the process of removing Andrew from the line of succession, if the government does pursue that, which I think that they should, I think that Harry should be thrown into the mix. And I do believe that Harry and Meghan's titles should be removed, because while they have not been accused of doing anything even remotely as salacious as Andrew has been accused of, and again, he says he's innocent, at the end of the day, it is guilt by association. And we see similar associations here in the United States. Tyler Perry, who's Lily's godfather, has been taken to court twice, over civil court twice in the last few years for sexual assault and harassment. So they need to be more careful about who they associate with. I was sent this tweet by one of your producers, and I'm sorry I haven't had time to confirm it.
Okay, let me just read out what has been sent. This was sent to me by a viewer. This is a Twitter account called Honest Reporting, which claims a world-exclusive Harry and Meghan today visiting a Jordanian youth centre run by an NGO whose listed staff have shared posts glorifying Hamas terrorists, they allege. Hamas is a designated terrorist organisation, as we know, and Questscope calls itself a humanitarian organisation serving vulnerable youth. But a review, this tweet says, of verified Facebook accounts belonging to individuals identified as staff shows images of Hamas-affiliated militants, graphics celebrating rocket attacks from Gaza, posts praising resistance and violence, and Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine propaganda, it says these series of posts. We haven't been able to verify that, but they've certainly put a lot of information online there. So a salutary lesson, I think, Kinsey, that these things need to be checked and double-checked before association and before your, as you say, personal brand, your image is lent to them.
Yeah, I mean, if the institution wants to protect its credibility, it cannot allow part-time royals. That's a reputational liability. It cannot allow unsanctioned international tours to continue projecting the image of official authority from outside the system. And that's exactly what this is. It's my understanding that Harry, certainly Meghan, but Harry has little to no contact with his family. He is not there representing the British royal family. Who is he there representing? Why is he there as an authority figure? And so I think that the royal family needs to do everything in their power to cut ties before we have Andrew 2.0 on our hands.
The day that Andrew lost his job as the UK trade envoy, where he'd allegedly be brokering deals with lots of friends and passing information on, which is why he was arrested the other day, Epstein blamed Charles for it.
The mean older brother, yes. When Andrew lost his UK trade envoy role in July of 2011, Epstein sends a couple of emails. In one message, he wrote, that he assumed this is Charles's doing. And in another, he suggested Andrew would now be free. We've heard that language before, haven't we? Harry and Meghan finding freedom. He'd be free. There was even an exchange with Ghislaine Maxwell where after being sent coverage from Epstein, Ghislaine says, why? And Epstein replies, I think he wants to make money.
Oh, what, smelly Ghislaine? Still not washing in the Florida penitentiary. I wanted to ask something yesterday and I forgot. You know these thousands of emails, how did they come upon them? Was it just trawling through his computers? He'd saved everything. How did it come to be that the Epstein files existed in the first place?
This is evidence that they started to archive when they were going to prosecute him before he allegedly killed himself.
Allegedly killed himself? What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, there are question marks surrounding his death.
Well, I'll stick my neck on the line and everybody thinks I'm barking mad. I don't believe that a man, however successful, gets that much influence and that much money unless he's financed by somebody else. Right. How is that war going in Ukraine, Vladimir Putin? That's just my opinion. It's an outspoken one, but there we go. Can we talk about Epstein? Because two things yesterday were brought to my attention that I left a little bit of sick in my mouth. Bill Gates admitted affairs with Russians, but denies illicit behaviour. So he was married and he was popping off on the Lolita Express to have sex with a lot of Russian models and porn stars. Is that right?
Well, and it's just, it sends you back to that Andrew BBC interview where he's like, it's not this, it's that. It's like trying to deflect. So we have a collection of emails from Jeffrey Epstein where he's offering up Russian women, specifically Russian women, to other high-profile individuals. But you're just willing to say, yes, my mistresses were Russian, but they weren't Epstein Russian. I mean, it's just, it's trying. I'm not buying it either because I'm just thinking to myself, it looks too much like Andrew trying to talk his way out of trouble. It's just a little bit of this, but not completely that.
The whole thing is just, and then yesterday, and I can bring Poppy in on this, a photograph was sent to my phone by Christian, and I thought it was a joke, but it's not a joke at all. Stephen Hawking, who is an incredible human being, is pictured in a pair of jeans and a jumper with two really, really young-looking, half-naked models holding a cocktail for him to sip on. Their faces have been blacked out. I don't know what to say, both of you. Could his family have said, right, this is my best bit, kittens, right? They were his carers.
Oh, my God.
His family have said, those two bikini-clad women on Epstein's Island where Russian prostitutes run amok were simply his carers.
I have never seen such hot caregivers. I can confidently say
Sorry, hot caregivers, did you just say?
We might need to hold a contest so we can find some, but I will also say I've never been in a bikini in front of my employer, and I don't plan to be. I'm getting older, things are going south, so it's probably never going to happen. But I just don't see the appropriateness of throwing on a two-piece in front of the guy that, is paying my rent.
Poppy, I'm with you, kids. Poppy, Stephen Hawking is a national treasure. He's lying there on his sunbed and he's got two bikini-clad young women holding a cocktail. They are allegedly his carers. Any response?
All I was going to say is I haven't had that many interactions with the NHS, but I have a feeling that those are not exactly the sort of carers you'd expect in a hospital. Also, the caption on that photo that one of the newspapers gave it was, Stephen Hawking, pictured here, grinning from ear to ear. Well, you would, wouldn't you, if you were in that situation?
Can you two just give me a minute? Hello. Is that the care home? I'm coming in later after the show. I need a couple of
I need a blonde, I need a brunette.
Well, I mean, honestly, mate, the whole thing, and you think you can't get any worse. Stephen Hawking being straddled by two cocktail-holding, careful, young things. I hope your mother...
Well,
I'm the hot one, though. I'm the hot one. Your mother thinks I'm hot. This is unbelievable.
Never forget it. Never forget it. It just goes to show you the reach that Epstein had, the unbelievable access he had to truly significant characters.
Completely.
Andrew aside, we won't even acknowledge him, but he just had access to unbelievable people, and it's scary.
Imagine being on Epstein's Island as Prince Andrew, and you come out of some massage room where some young Russian woman has given you a rub down, and there's Hawking being dealt with by two people. There's Gates in the corner. I mean, it's so vile. It's so wrong. And honestly, we've only got a little bit of time left. Can we please move on? In all of this, I read an amazing article by Amanda Patel this morning in the Daily Mail, who said, let's not forget, whilst all of this is going on and Uncle Andrew is in disgrace, inside the ginger one and the odious one, Harry and Meghan, from nowhere, have landed in Jordan, is it, I think, and are doing a 2-day humanitarian tour. Honest to God, she must be rubbing her hands with glee, Meghan. You know, I look good now.
Does she? Well, that's my issue, JK. Like, my concern is that we will see an increase this year in these types of trips because the Sussexes are determined to play the moral superiority card. They want to say, I told you so. They want us to go back and go, oh, maybe they were being honest in the Oprah Winfrey interview, because look at all these negative headlines surrounding the British royal family. And you are my witness, Jeremy Kyle. I have sat here and defended King Charles to the point of embarrassment.
Yep.
If this man does not grow a pair and take away these titles from these ridiculous clowns, I will have to reconsider where my priorities are.
I completely agree. This is nothing more. By the way, did you know that Jordan is one of the favourite hunting grounds of William and Kate? This is an absolute publicity stunt by that odious pair. He looks as miserable as sin. She will have been rubbing her hands together and phoning the latest in a line of 10 PR agents that have gone in the time since they left the royal family. This is all about her again. I wish somebody would have the courage to say to her, and I'm so with you, no title, nobody's interest, stick to jam, you odious cretin, and let us get on with our lives. You're right. King Charles, right, who might end up being interviewed by the police, according to Di Davies, and William for that sake, needs to do the right thing. He could start getting people back on side by taking titles away from those two grifters. Hate them, sorry, don't like him. People go, are you really unfair to her? No, I'm not. Horrible.
No, I think it's called holding someone accountable.
Yeah.
And we see these visuals where she's trying to copy Diana. She's trying to copy Catherine. You quit your job because you didn't have the backbone, you didn't have the discipline, and you didn't have what it takes to make it as a royal.
No class.
Yeah,
no class.
That too.
I've said before, I used to go to go to America on a boys' golf trip, and there she is. We watched repeats of Deal or No Deal, and she's box 23 in a boob tube. Terrible. More royal sort of news overnight. Many people say, God, is this ever going to go away? Some more emails from Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell overnight, intimating very cleverly, some would say, that Epstein blamed Charles for Andrew losing his UK trade envoy job, the job that he's now under investigation. Quick question for you. Did the King get him fired, Angela?
Get what? No, he managed to get him away. He didn't want him to have the job. He thought he wouldn't be worth doing it. International trade and investment. He wouldn't have done it properly, and he didn't want it. But Tony Blair, who was Prime Minister then, absolutely wouldn't take that. And Mandelson absolutely wanted it as well. So he lost it. So I imagine after all that time, they'd seen what had happened and obviously recognised that it wasn't what they wanted. So he just stopped it. I'm very pleased he did.
Well, of course, the job that he is accused now of taking, bungs and setting up meetings and, giving out confidential information to make his mate's life, predominantly Epstein, but other people as well, a lot better. And people are talking about an abuse of power. I know that Charles, when it first came out, said no, but you don't think he put any pressure? He would just have been relieved that Andrew was out of it. During that time, with those warnings, did he know anything, Charles, do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I think he couldn't do it. I mean, he has to do what the prime ministers say. He's not got the chance to say that I definitely want to do that. But there must have been something after those 10 years that he said, look, that's enough, and they let it happen.
Many people in this country, Angela, we talked about this already this week, are beginning to question the monarchy like never before. Do you understand that?
I do, yes. I think every now and then we all get very anxious and it affects everything. And this is another one. And it's very dangerous what's happened. And you don't know who to believe. You don't know if they're good, if they're bad, if they're doing things that are terrible. You know, when we don't know, you don't know them anymore.
And that's the point. People are questioning the monarchy like never before. Yesterday I had Di Davis on, the ex-royal bodyguard, and he said he believes that this will carry on, and it might well be that the King and William might have to be questioned by the police, Angela Levin.
I don't think they will ask that. They won't. The King doesn't have to do that. Absolutely not. So, you know, I'm not worried about that. He doesn't have to, and he won't go to any...
No, you say he doesn't have to, but he said he would cooperate fully. My question, and we both know that Charles cares deeply about the monarchy, right? If the way to turn public opinion or get people on side is himself to tell the police what he knew, because, and I'm not having a go, but if he had reservations about Andrew and said, you know, he'll just sleep with everybody and take advantage financially before he became a trade envoy, then it would be perfectly acceptable to say, what else did you know? What led you to that opinion? He gave his opinion. People didn't listen to him. I get that. But I do actually think that certain members of the royal family might, well, Fergie definitely, might end up being questioned. And the big thing is what I just said to you. He said he'll cooperate, the King.
Yeah, I think there's cooperation and there's cooperation, isn't it? If it's done quietly and talking, and I think that will work. I mean, we're not going to know that he's been taken like Andrew was, put in a car and driven away somewhere. It'll be very quiet and delicate, and I think that will be fine. But
if he was taken, if they had a meeting and they had a delicate conversation, here's a question for you. Do you think that the King would refuse to answer any questions about Andrew?
I think you would find a way of giving an answer, like you and I both do, if we're not too keen on answering it. You can just, you know, move gently to the left or the right. And I think he will be wanting to get as much as he can and get it over. And
do you think he regrets, and I'm not, you know, I'm a fan of the monarchy, but do you think he regrets not coming forward, not swallowing the lies, not being more transparent sooner? We know we can't say that of his mother. She's no longer here. But do you think he now perhaps thinks, geez, I wish something had happened sooner?
Well, we all do that, don't we? I mean, it's this huge sort of terrible amount of things, millions and millions of things that are coming over, and you don't know that what's in there. And I think that he has done his best. I think he was nervous because Andrew's not very nice to him and he's not very nice to Andrew.
Do you think he'll ever speak to Andrew again?
Do I think he will ever speak to him? Well, I don't know. But I doubt he will ever have a nice conversation. You know, he might just say something very simple, but I don't think he wants to go anywhere near. That's why he moved him. He doesn't want to go anywhere near him. He doesn't want to see him. He doesn't want him to come up to him if there's, you know, whatever's going on with the royal family and have a laugh or smile. He doesn't want to have anything to do with him.
Do you think the ex-Prince Andrew would ever set foot in Buckingham Palace or any of the major royal residencies ever again?
No, I'm sure not.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you, we've only got a couple of minutes, is there's obviously a couple of people, one spectacularly, I imagine, called Meghan Markle, who have been rubbing her hands in glee. I'd love your response to the fact that she and the ginger one have suddenly landed in Jordan on an unofficial 2-day humanitarian visit, meeting teenage victims of the wars and shaking hands. She's loving this, isn't she?
Yes, and I think it's disgusting. I want to get extremely annoyed. These crazy things that mean nothing, and she does it to try and have photographs. It's just to have photographs. But I was very surprised and upset this morning when I hear there's a lot of Hamas in those people that she saw yesterday and the day before. They're supporting staff. And so we've got terrorists that they go around shaking hands and saying, hello, how are you? It's also dangerous because Iran is threatening to war and they're gone to Jordan. They won't come to London, they won't come to the UK, but they won't go to Jordan where at any moment there can be a war.
You're saying that Meghan Markle's hanging out with Hamas terrorists?
I'm not saying she's hanging out with them, but some of the people who are running these events in Jordan are Hamas. And they were had head things with their name, their numbers on it, and their name, and yeah.
Unbelievable. She'll do anything, as you said, for a photograph. And I suspect, I don't know about you, that she's pretty delighted with all of this, the story about the ex-Prince Andrew that's going on. Just one thing, haven't got long. He looks as miserable as sin, the ginger one still, trailing behind her with a face as long as anything.
Unhappy. And he'll be very unhappy that she says she won a football goal. So he was very upset about that. He couldn't even manage that because she took that away from him so she could show how he fought. I know.
The author of the unbelievable royal book, of the bombshell book entitled The Decline and Fall of the House of York, Andrew Lowney. Welcome, Andrew.
Good to be with you again. Thank you.
Well, the current story, I mean, it's hard to sort of get a handle on all the various stories surrounding the escalating crisis over Andrew, the way the King's handling it, the rest of the family. But the current story seems to be, the news story, was that Jeffrey Epstein was reportedly trafficking women through UK airports until just a month before his arrest in 2019, that he travelled to and from Britain on his private jet more than 60 times, often using airports like RAF and Norton and places like that, so using official military bases. In your research, or in your knowledge, would Andrew have been involved in all of this?
Yes, well, it seems extraordinary that these flights were able to go through some of these airports. We know that the Lita flight went to places like RAF Marham, which is actually quite a sensitive military installation. So it does suggest that Andrew was able to pull some strings. I certainly, when I put in FOI requests around some of these questions in the past, and no one was prepared to answer them, which suggests that there was something that people did want to hide. But yeah, it does seem extraordinary that, right up to his arrest, he was able to do this.
Yeah, as I say, one would assume, God knows why he kept coming to this country, but presumably, for some of those times, and we've read these stories, some of the times it was to see his friend Andrew, or Prince Andrew as he was then, and that at least one or two of the girls, possibly more, were transported directly to Buckingham Palace to spend an evening of fun with HRH.
Yes, well, I mean, clearly they were very close. I mean, there were clearly other British figures who had been named in these files, and maybe girls were being supplied to them. I mean, I think we still haven't got the full story, but yes, certainly Andrew was one of the big customers.
Now, I know I ask you this every time, but there is a police investigation going on into Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. He stands accused, of misuse, misbehaviour in a public office, misconduct in a public office. He denies that. Now, the police investigation is going on. They took him into a police cell last week, interrogated him for 12 hours. You, arguably, Andrew, probably got more information on this man, Mountbatten-Windsor, than anyone else. Have the police been in touch?
No. I mean, I've twice written to the National Crime Agency offering my material. I've repeated offers on radio and television to offer material I've got. There was a lot of stuff that was not used for legal reasons, stuff that I've collected ever since. some material that I couldn't stand up and therefore we couldn't use. So yes, I mean, I'm certainly very willing to help any inquiries, and I certainly have a lot of material that isn't in the public domain.
If I was a copper, which thank the Lord I'm not, sir, I think I would be in touch with you immediately. But strange times. What about Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, stripped of her Duchess of York title, apparently hiding out in a £13,000 a night wellness recovery clinic near Zurich. £13,000. Apparently it's the most expensive recovery clinic in the entire world. And we hear, according to reports, that she's staying there free, as is her wont, for the publicity. I can't imagine they get very good publicity for having Sarah Ferguson there. But if she is there for £13,000 a night, I mean, she's still somehow pulling off this extraordinary freeloading act that she's been conducting for most of her life.
Yeah, it was interesting, that story, because actually I gave that story to the paper. It's from one of my sources. The source got very upset, and actually I've lost them as a source. So the Spa hasn't actually been using this as a way of getting publicity, interestingly enough. That was, I think, a month around Christmas. She's now gone off to Ireland, I understand, and has been there at a much cheaper spa, where maybe where she's footing the bill. But she's sort of does this all the time. Whenever there's a problem, she kind of runs away, either to some expensive spa or to stay with friends. And I think she's probably on the move. She's absolutely terrified that she will perhaps will make the long arm of the law may come after her. She's certainly a material witness to what was going on in Epstein's homes, and I'm amazed that the Senate and others haven't asked her to testify.
So, of course, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as he is now, is under criminal investigation for charges or allegations that he denies that he was guilty of misconduct in a public office while he was trade envoy in the early noughties. The more we read, partly due to you, Andrew, the more we read about Fergie, his ex-wife, and his two daughters, Princess Bea and Eugenie, the more they seem to be right at the heart of whatever the hell Andrew Mountbatten, or Prince Andrew as he was there, was up to. Beatrice in particular, accompanying him on a couple of these weird business trips that he used to make to the Middle East and Kazakhstan and places like that, and China indeed. You know, he's under criminal investigation. Do you think it's time that Sarah Ferguson, Beatrice and Eugenie were placed under criminal investigation as well?
Well, I mean, we can't really talk about misconduct in public office because they didn't have a public office, but I do think there are a lot of questions to do with charity law, with the Companies Act and other things where there could be investigations. I mean, we've got the famous 2022 High Court case where monies were found in their accounts that they couldn't explain, for example. So I do think they should be taken in for questioning. They are material witnesses. They are deeply involved in this story. This is very much a family business. And I would have thought they would be very important witnesses in any investigation into Andrew's activities.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, whilst I have to be careful about Beatrice and Eugenie, although I do believe they knew what their parents were up to and the police should talk to them about that. And if anything nefarious is discovered, then they should be stripped of their titles. Quite why they're being spared the fate of their parents by the king is something of a mystery. But the thing about Sarah Ferguson and Andrew, and the reason I think Sarah Ferguson should be investigated, is that neither of them had a moral fibre in their body. So if there was anything wrong to do, they were likely to do it. So Sarah, I think, does need to have her collar felt, doesn't she?
Well, as I say, I think she's certainly someone who could be questioned. I'm not quite sure what one would, what any charge would be, except as I say, there may be investigations that, for example, HMRC could do. But, you know, we have the situation of Beatrice going around the Middle East now, going to Davos, advertising herself as Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice. But these are activities not to do anything with this country, but to actually promote her own business interests. And I think that's wrong. She and Eugenie continue to have subsidised accommodation at St James's and Kensington Palace, though they have no royal duties. So there are a whole series of areas I think people could be looking at. I mean, I think for me, the priority is that Andrew is held to account for what he's done, but also that there is some investigation of what was going on as a trade envoy, because he was supported by a whole series of people at UKTI, diplomats, civil servants, etc. And we've had stories in the press recently about how bean counters were questioning some of the expenses he was putting on to the taxpayer, including the massages, and those were being sort of pushed through. And I think, clearly people were allowing these things. On what basis were they allowing him to make these claims? And so I think there are more people who should be in the frame. And of course, there's his private secretary, Amanda Thirsk, his the people he worked with, David Rowlands, David Stern, Dominic Hampshire. All these people, I hope the police are beginning to question, because they clearly will know an awful lot of information about what he was up to.
Absolutely. And Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, leading the calls for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, when all this comes out in the wash, to repay all the money that he has either misappropriated or wasted on Britain's behalf. These small matter really, but rather sordid, that he was getting us, the taxpayers, to pay for his private massages when he went on these trade envoy trips. Rachel was saying he should pay that back. So in the end, possibly Andrew will be landed with another massive bill.
Yes, well, even just for the massages, it would be huge. But I think
did he have a lot? Did he?
He had quite a lot. I think the problem is that so many of these expenses were deliberately lost in general accounting. This was one of the frustrations with the bean counters, that actually there was a conspiracy to disguise these expenses right from the very beginning, and the complaints began in 2001. This is the extraordinary thing. Everyone was complaining about him from 2001, and yet it took 10 years for anything to actually happen. So I think that's going to be one of the problems. And also, he gets a jet to go somewhere, he has private time, but he would argue, well, I did my bit. Why should I have to pay for the private time bit?
I think calls will increase for him to pay back every single penny. Last question, Andrew. Do you envisage Andrew ever being seen in public with any of the royal family again, especially his brother, the King? Do you expect him never to be allowed to visit Buckingham Palace ever again? Will he, in effect, just be stuck in Sandringham and not allowed out, basically?
Well, they did that with Prince John. One of the royal princes, over 100 years ago, he was stuck in Wood Farm and just sort of forgotten about. And we think there were also those, cousins of the Queen Mother who were put in a mental home for years. And everyone thought they died in the 1940s. They were still there in the 1970s. So the royals are quite good at getting people out of the public view. So yes, I think they would be very unwise to have anything more to do with Andrew. Charles already, people are raising questions about how much he knew. And so I think he'll be keeping his head under the radar on this issue.
Yes, the very last question. Can the royal family survive this? The King insists he didn't know or he did not contribute to this £12 million hush money paid to Virginia Giuffre. A really bad look. They should never have done that. The King insists he did not contribute any money. You once before told me that you believe he's lying in that respect. But either way, as this crisis escalates, and it certainly does, can the royal family survive this?
Yes, I think they can, and I hope they will, and they should, as long as I think they use this as an opportunity to reform, to modernise, to be more transparent, less secretive. And if the King does, as he say, have had nothing to do with covering up Andrew's crimes, then I think the public will accept that. But I think if he is found to have been complicit in effect, perverting the course of justice, then I think attitudes may change.
And in that case, in that instance, I think he would have to abdicate, wouldn't he?
I think his position would be very difficult. He has said that the law must follow its course. And if we are going to have the law operating without fear and favour, then if someone has actually perverted the course of justice, then yes, absolutely, they have to take the consequences.
Last very important point, the new updated edition of Entitled comes out on May the 21st?
It does. Still got to write it. The problem is knowing when to stop.
Well, you better get down, get your typewriter right now. Let's talk about, this is the third weird pretend royal tour staged by the gruesome twosome Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They've already once been to Nigeria, to Colombia, and now they've pitched up in Jordan. They went to refugee camps, they went to hospitals. They were apparently invited to these heart-rending venues by the World Health Organization, China's favourite health organisation, and you know, lots of photo opportunities, headline hunting. That's what it looks like. Of course, looks like tit for tat publicity blitzing by Meghan. She loves that, because anything Harry, or rather William and Kate, does, they can do better. So William was in the Middle East only 2 weeks ago. Suddenly Harry and Meghan are in the Middle East, and it turns out now, as they tour Jordan, they've been snubbed by Jordan's royal family, King Abdullah and his eldest son, who are close with Charles and William, and they have swerved meeting the Sussexes, which makes this visit, this trip to Jordan, just seem even more pointless than it ever was. It's just utterly pointless. It's just a photo op and a headline opportunity, isn't it?
Right, because the king did meet with the leader of the World Health Organization that choreographed this trip for Harry and Meghan. There was a meeting between the World Health Organization and the royal family. It's just that the Duke and Duchess of Hamas were excluded from said trip. But I just am fed up, Kevin. Take the titles away of these two ingrates, of these two idiots. Meghan Markle can't find a steamer to save her life. I'm sick of looking at Harry's bald spot. Who are you there to represent other than yourself? You are the two most entitled, self-obsessed, you know, the pictures where they desperately are trying to recreate Diana moments, Catherine Princess of Wales moments, you know, get a real job. Nobody wants you in this position. You quit the job when you had it because you have no backbone, you have no discipline, you have no work ethic. You want to just pop in and out whenever you feel like it. Yeah. And all you do is jeopardize the monarchy, the real members of the British royal family. When you go do these trips, you don't do any of your due diligence. You end up at places associated with, you know, a certified terrorist organization in both of our company or in countries.
Yeah, there's talk that, or reports that they came into contact with members of Hamas, which is even worse. But, you know, these kids in the burns unit, in the hospitals, refugees, poor little mites, never mind. Good news. Here's a 2-bit former cable show actress to see you and pose in a picture with you. What on earth is the point of that?
And, you know, Meghan pulls those faces like she's she's just so devastated to be there. Oh, my gosh. You know, spare us.
Like Princess Di, right? Like
yes,
her Princess
spare
Di
us.
face.
You've had 6 years to pursue a life of philanthropy. You know, I was just talking to our friend, Andrew Mountbatten, who said, talking about the Yorks specifically, that they would pop in and out of these charities that really had no legitimacy, no structure, just to make them look good. And I was like, Loney, does that not remind you of somebody else? Harry and Meghan, you know, Archwell Foundation, Archwell Philanthropies, they just shut down that kitchen charity that Meghan worked on in 2018 over in the UK. There's just no consistency here. Harry and Meghan commit to nothing. They pop in for pictures and they leave. What is the value? What value do these two idiots bring?
Yeah, so they've gone to Jordan. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, lived in Jordan when she was a child for a while. Both Catherine and William, the Prince and Princess of Wales, love Jordan. They even went on a holiday with a vacation with their kids a few years back. So this is Jordan, very special to the Prince and Princess of Wales. I'm just guessing that was a factor in the gruesome twosome choosing Jordan as a venue for their latest weird pretend royal tour, right? Tit for tat, another chapter in Meghan's ongoing publicity war against particularly Catherine, right?
Well, Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's not like a bunch of places are knocking down the door to get the Duke and Duchess of Hamas to show up. Okay, like, let's be honest. Nobody wants Harry and Meghan rolling up. What value do they bring? I say that again. But I think that there's a little bit of irony in the fact that if you criticize the royal family in Jordan, you go to jail. And here are Harry and Meghan, two people that love criticizing royal families. Of course, the Jordan royal family is not going to mess with Harry and Meghan. You can go to jail if you criticize the royal family, and Harry and Meghan have made an entire career out of criticizing the royal family.
Let's talk about who pays for these trips. As I say, this is their third weird pretend royal tour, where they act like the king and queen. And people go, oh, you're not real. You're not proper royals. You're not part of the royal family.
The king and queen have a tailor, okay? Yeah. If I have to watch Meghan Markle in a tent one more time, I am going to poke my eyes out.
Yeah, but the question here is, and these questions abound about their previous trips to Nigeria and Colombia and now Jordan. Who pays for these? That they'll fly there first class almost certainly. They'll stay in the very finest hotels, very expensive trips. There'll be security with them. Who pays for that? Because there are questions being asked of their former charity, Archewell Foundation. It's now mysteriously changed its name to Archewell Philanthropies. Now, if that organisation, that charity, is funding their trips, is that why people donate to Archewell? So that they can fly first class to Jordan and stay in nice hotels? Because if I was giving my money to a charity, that isn't what I'd want it to be spent on.
Yeah, so that they can have these little vanity trips for positive coverage in People magazine and Us Weekly and Hello. Yeah. No, I would say that that's the return on investment is simply not there. But perhaps it is. I mean, we don't know who. I don't specifically know who funds.
No, nor do I.
These social experiments. I just know that I don't understand what the World Health Organization was thinking when they went, yeah, hell yeah, let's grab Harry and Meghan and bring them over to Jordan so that they can just make sour faces. And
yeah, well, the World Health Organization, is like China's favorite organization. The World Health Organization was the useless organization that ruined the world with the COVID crisis with its overreaction. So let's not write any sonnets about
not give them too much credibility.
Yeah, no, let's not write sonnets about the WHO. It's made so many mistakes before. Why not make a mistake about the gruesome twosome? I mean, you seem, I think I share your anger, but you seem genuinely angry about this latest headline hunting photo opportunity trip.
I am angry about it because they've shown us who they really are. We're not stupid. And they try to pivot. They keep trying to rebrand themselves. This is another rebranding exercise. Look, we are just like Princess Diana. Look at our faces. Look, we're with children. We're kneeling down. We're at their level. Get out of here and try to sell us another wickless candle. Try selling us more booze on Diana's birthday after she was in the back seat with a drunk driver behind the wheel. These two are so selfish and moronic. We're not falling for it. And I'm just so sick to death of these outlets pandering to these two because they want a few clicks.
Yeah. And it seems very inappropriate, the timing, with the problems the royal family are having back in Britain, particularly. I feel sorry for the king. I don't think he's handling the Andrew crisis very well, but he's a sick man and he looks a lot sicker due to this. And this will make his life even more stressful, watching his other pariah or his pariah son gallivanting, preening himself around Jordan on this weird trip.
No half in, half out. Yeah. No half in, half out. You're not going to force it, Harry.
Yeah, I know. I feel sorry for the king. He won't like this. Nor do you, nor do I.
Right then, let's talk about the royals. And Grant Harold, who is former royal butler, is with me now. Grant, you're very welcome to the programme. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on.
There's quite a lot going on, really, with Harry and Meghan, of course, who are on this, or have been on this tour of Jordan. But apparently they were snubbed by King Abdullah and his eldest son. Tell us your thoughts about this.
Well, it's interesting because obviously the reports say that the king is obviously, he knows the king, our king, quite well.
Yes.
His son knows the Prince of Wales. I mean, I wouldn't have said, and this is just from my experience when I was there, I wouldn't have said they were all best friends by any means. They're obviously royal families that know each other and they've got an association with each other. The fact that they're saying that they've been snubbed, I don't know if that's an official line that's been said or if it's what's been assumed, because I don't think, and it's just my feeling, I don't think that it would be deliberately done. I'm imagining that the king himself may have other
presumably it's a point of protocol as well, because we have Harry and Meghan who are apparently not royals anymore, yet they do seem to be acting in a pretty royal fashion. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I've been saying. It's almost like a royal tour, but it's not a royal tour because they're not working royals. So they're doing this unofficial royal tour. I am assuming, I'm guessing that, from what I understand, Harry has been having a conversation with his father. So I'm assuming that he has obviously told his father about this visit. So I don't think it'll be a surprise to the king or to his brother. I'm sure that there has been dialogue about it. Whether it's been encouraged or supported, that's a completely different matter. But they have obviously decided to take this duty. And I understand that the ambassador to the country also actually welcomed them and was pleased that they were there, and there was an official, if you like, an official invitation. They weren't invited to go out there.
Should they be doing these kind of visits?
It's a really tricky one because, yes, I mean, there's no reason for them not to. Anyone can be invited to another country. You get celebrities doing it all the time. As long as that's what they're going, as long as they're going under, can I say, under that umbrella of a celebrity, that's fine. If they're going under the umbrella as British working royals, that's not technically right, because they're no longer working royals to the British royal family, so they're doing it under their own steam. So they're doing it just, without any kind of endorsement from the royal family, because otherwise it would be an invitation via the British government.
Well, indeed. Tell us what you think about Princess Eugenie as well. Apparently an insider says she's happy and at ease. It cannot be easy for her, who's done nothing wrong, as far as we know, to be caught up in all of this scandal in regard to her father and indeed mother.
I feel really sorry for it. There's a video at the moment circulating on social media. I saw it a little while ago, and she's walking, obviously, in a street in London, and somebody goes up and starts kind of quizzing her, and you can see she's really uncomfortable.
That's not very fair. That's not a very fair thing.
I felt sorry for her because, basically, Eugenie, who actually did actually know weirdly, I didn't know their father that well, but I got to know them, and they're two very polite, really nice girls, and I feel for them because I think they would have been, I don't think they've been aware of any of this. I have no doubt they weren't aware of any of this, and they're caught up in this, and the embarrassment for them must be awful. I mean, God knows what's going through their minds. And at the end of the day, it's still their parents, and whether parents or their kids, whatever, do things wrong, it's still your parents, it's still your children. So it's a very tricky one. So I do feel for them.